Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trace Trocco, joined by Adam Eaton. Welcome to Sons of UCF Live. Adam, happy
Oh,
homecoming.
wow. I didn't know we were doing props off the top of the show, but good to see you, Trace. Good to see everybody out there as well. Action-packed show. We have a BYU insider coming up. We have Nick Patti coming up. We have questions. We have 10 videos tonight, an all-time record for Sons of UCF Live. And the amount of video clips we're going to show tonight, 10 total, including some new ones that we've never done before. So you picked a fantastic night to join us.
It's not often I see you in person during a week, but this was a week in which we did get to hang out at Intern Pursuit at UCF. Could be some new Sons of UCF interns coming our way.
Yeah, I mean, it's surreal to think that we're at a point where people are actually asking us to join what we're doing, to somehow get to that point where they're actually interested in like, hey, we like what you do is just a super weird phenomenon. But part of what we always try to do around here is give back to the UCF community. And if in some way, shape, or form we can do that, that's awesome. And we hope to bring some new faces and voices, perspectives to you soon. So stay tuned, but definitely appreciate the opportunity from the Nicholson School on letting us crash their party and met some really talented people, Trace. There was a lot of good candidates out there.
A lot of good candidates. Looking forward to working with some of them. All right, it is homecoming week, but let's talk just briefly about UCF's fourth straight loss, 38-35 in Ames, Iowa to Iowa State. Is there a takeaway here? Something you hold on to, gives you a little hope over these next couple of games?
Curious to see what Ja'Carri Brown can produce. Obviously, the passing game was not strong against Iowa State, but looking back at it, I think perhaps he missed a couple of reads. Learning the offense still, maybe a little on the road jitters. But I loved what he brought to the running game. I love that he brought some additional wrinkles to the offense. So encouraged by that potentially progressing. One of those things where maybe in hindsight, you wish you had seen him in week 2 or week 3, kind of growing and learning, where he'd kind of be at that learning curve now versus in the heart of our Big 12 schedule. But it is what it is on that point. I think the defense played okay, right? I mean, 2 pick sixes ostensibly. I know we dropped one on the one, but 2 pick sixes, were huge as well. So you see signs of this team kind of figuring some stuff out. But I said on our show this week on Monday, it feels like whack-a-mole, Trace. Every game there's something. It's penalties, it's drop passes, it's interceptions, it's turnovers, it's missed kicks. It feels like every game there's something that kind of bites us. We go back and fix it, and then something else bites us again. So is this the week we can put it all together? We thought it was Iowa State. It was really close to being Iowa State. It's probably a couple calls at the end that in hindsight shouldn't have happened the way they did, but shame on us for letting it be that close, I guess.
Yeah, up now on sonsofUCF.com, our friend Dolly Drama with a perspective on where the season is and the welcoming of homecoming. His column Night Fans bring it in and have a seat as he transitions from that Iowa State loss in the early part of the season to homecoming and what may lie ahead. But we couldn't get too far into this show without talking about some dirty laundry being aired. You saw this week defensive end Cavin Call publicly announcing his split with UCF, and I don't think it's a good look for anyone. I know a lot of people are riled up on the message boards and on social media. It's a little bit of he said. You know this from work experience. You can't talk about personnel matters. It puts UCF in a bit of an awkward position. And their truth may lie somewhere in between.
Yeah, let me start with this. For anybody out there who has a full-time job, works, obviously, whatever you do, if anytime your boss treats you bad, it's a horrible experience. Full stop. No excuses, no conversation needed at that point. But to your point, we're hearing one particular side of the conversation. And if that indeed happened the way that it happened to Cavin, and that's his experience, he wrote it on paper, then that's pretty crappy. And that's definitely hard to read. However, what is UCF's perspective on this? Will they ever offer their turn at sharing what their thought process was, what happened? Very unlikely. So we're going to be left with one side of the story, which is unfortunate. But the reality is, in situations like this, Trace, in my experience, it's typically somewhere in the middle, right? You have a version, I have a version. It's somewhere in the middle. I will say this, though. I read contracts for a living at work, so I kind of have to parse and nuance language. There is one thing in the Cavin Call letter that I do think is interesting. He said something to the effect of, and I was hoping to be able to be there for my team. He left out 2 words, next year. And I wonder if that's the conversation UCF's having is around, wait a minute, you didn't say you were coming back. He thought that he meant he was coming back, but clearly the redshirt conversation was a point of contention. We understand his side of the story. We're never going to probably get UCF's side of the story. But again, let me go back to the top. If you're being mistreated by a person of leadership, that is not correct. That should not happen. And shame on that person. Full stop. No questions asked.
Yeah, I'm sure it is complicated. The truth lies somewhere in between. I think it is coming also amidst a losing streak. If you're 5-2, 6-1, maybe you're not hearing all of this chatter. And I saw a little turn in the media room on Monday with head coach Gus Malzahn. Some more challenging questions being asked. My colleague Matt Michelle of the Orlando Sentinel asking coach if there's any pressure coming from the administration. Does he hear that mounting pressure? Let's hear from coach.
I feel my own internal pressure as far as disappointment of not getting it done to win games, especially the last one was a tough one to swallow. We got to figure out a way to win the game, but it's next game, and that's the way I look at it. I've been doing this a long time, and I've had a lot of ups and downs, and it's all about our players. It's all about our team, and from a coach's standpoint, we got to do better to help them.
Yeah, well, we'll see if the Knights can snap the 4-game losing streak. It was 5 last season in the first year in the Big 12. This one coming with much different expectations, though, this season. But what'd you make of Coach Malzahn's response there?
A couple of things I noticed. First off, unkempt hair. He looked a little bit unkempt, and blue shirt, not an official UCF
Orlando
polo.
Magic logo on that sleeve.
Okay, fair. Very good point. I did not see that. Thank you for the correction. That's why you are a worldwide award-winning journalist. But he looked like a guy who had certainly had some frustration. He looked like somebody who was trying to continue to convince people, including his own team, that they are going to be okay. That's what you wanted a coach. We're going to be all right. Let's stay the course. Let's stay this together. You're not seeing a ton of panic, at least outwardly on Gus. Maybe in practice you are, but he's kind of giving that stoic demeanor, but a little bit of hint of ego, a little hint. I'm doing this a long time. I know what I'm doing here. Still that little hint of Gus ego there, but he definitely looked like he'd been a little bit more beaten down, no pun intended, over the last couple of weeks.
Monday, of course, he names Sha'Carri Brown starting quarterback Saturday against BYU. I asked on my poll question this week, who do you want starting against BYU? Overwhelmingly, Sha'Carri out edging EJ Colson. I like you 3% that went with KJ Jefferson. I do think it was interesting. Eric Lopez said on a recent Around the Kingdom, might the Knights have beaten Cincinnati with KJ Jefferson? And, we'll always be left to wonder that. Our buddy Andy at UCF XOS back in the fold, diagramming plays and the like, and he's supplied something to us you want to show.
Yeah, he's got the play of the game this week, and we talked about Sha'Carri Brown and what he brings. Here's Andy's breakdown of that long touchdown run by Sha'Carri Brown.
All right, so this is the play of the game. This is the start of the second half. We have empty backfield set right now where we have the running back who's going to be the number one receiver to the outside. It's a little bit tricky. How's the defense going to defend you? Are they going to put a corner out there? Are they going to move a linebacker out there? Obviously, you can't leave them unblocked. And then we put 3 into the boundary. We have formation into the boundary right now. So what we're going to see is we're going to actually run a little bubble screen, bubble RPO. It's a one-look read. They have 4 defenders over 3. So then we're going to end up running quarterback, GT counter back. Now, this ends up being a great job by the offensive line. It's a great job blocking by everybody involved. So what we're looking at is C, B, A, B, C, and then we have a D gap. We have 7 gaps for 6 defenders. So they're already short a gap. And then when we end up pulling, we're going to go down, down, and then we're going to work down right here. This defender ends up looping inside, so then we're going to work to the backside backer. So we're going to see on the play side linebacker, he's actually going to try to knife inside, and he's going to try to make us spill the ball out wide. So he's going to try to go underneath where our puller is, because he knows that we're trying to pull with a kick out and then with a lead block. So 47 right here is going to try to knife underneath. And the only issue is that when he does that, there's not another linebacker or safety to then come fill. So again, they're short. This ends up being a great play for the offense, and it ends up being a huge touchdown run. And that's the play of the game.
Have you tried to knife underneath this?
Not. I feel like, though, Andy should be on a flight telling me that we're going to be landing soon and to buckle my seatbelt with that melodic voice there. But again, that's a wrinkle that somebody in the comments, I think it was Dolly, that's something that he brings the offense, Sha'Carri, that KJ does not. So you see sort of the benefit of having a running quarterback or more athletic quarterback in Sha'Carri Brown.
Well, let's bring in a former UCF quarterback for a little perspective on the Knights. He is Nick Patti. We welcome Nick back to Sons of UCF Live. Nick, how are you?
Doing well, fellas. How are you guys?
Doing well. Amidst a 4-game losing streak, we win every week here. We go 1-0 every week on the Sons of UCF Live.
I share that outlook, man. I love it.
Happy homecoming as well.
Yeah, no doubt. It was a fun week. UCF puts a fun spin on it. We didn't get to do it all that often when I was there, but fun week.
Our buddy Christian Simmons of the Pegasus podcast shared with me earlier today a photo he snapped of you at the 2016 Media Day, and I asked him if I could show it. So if Adam can bring that, look at a younger Nick Patti right there. You look the same. You really look the same. By the way, this photo, he was pointing out the uniform choice, the debut of this new line of uniforms.
I miss the Peter look. I certainly don't feel like I looked in that photograph. That's for sure. So look the same. I don't know about that either, but I don't feel the same. But
well, we are glad you are with us tonight. All right. What do you make of this? Couple weeks of KJ Jefferson, then a start by 17-year-old EJ Colson, and now Jakari.
Totally. I think, mixed bag of emotion. And there was this gigantic excitement going into it and high expectations, rightfully so. I think it was just, for whatever reason, the major letdown of kind of prompting this change, which I think is a good mix up at this point. Whatever the reason being, why not? And I think, especially in today's kind of day and age with transfer portal and all that, there's a side of fighting to keep some guys maybe here for the long haul. So give them some snaps and let it roll. I think it's provided a spark. I still don't think it's all perfect, but I think Jakari was awesome. It was kind of weird to me that they made the change and didn't give Colson a longer rope, and he didn't take as many snaps. I think it's that's what kind of sparked my mind of maybe they're just trying to get him some reps to keep him interested, keep him on the field, keep him from leaving. But not all that many reps to see, to me, even what he had. So the way they've gone about it's a little strange. I don't disagree with making the change. And I think we're at, coming through it and having Jakari there it's exciting, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Certainly a ton of talent there. So bizarre kind of path to get here, but frustrating.
Well, how about EJ comes in for one play at Iowa State, so that's 2 games he's played in. Right. We're keeping track of red shirts a lot now. The fan base is really dialed into that now. Yeah,
especially lately, and that's kind of point being, it's like it's got to be just an effort to keep him or whatever it may be. I don't necessarily. I don't know what that approach is. But I'd like to let them rip it a little bit. If they are going to do the 2 quarterback thing and rock and roll, I guess they're going to make a decision and stay with Jakari, which I like. I mean, I think he's shown a ton of promise and extremely talented. And, I think they're a little confused on how who wants to call plays and how they're going to run the offense, but we'll see if that shakes out.
Yeah, let me ask you about the play call. Coach Malzahn did not like my question post-game in Ames about the 3rd and shorts, medium, long ball pass plays, which Jakari could not hit. What do you make of those play calls? Did they put him in the best position to succeed?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's. I'd like to say no. I was sitting kind of thinking about it, thinking it kind of felt like Gus was trying to prove a point of like, all right, you guys want me to throw it, we'll throw it, and it's like, all right, it's 3rd and 4, and then it's not situationally sound, I feel like, and not to say he was doing that, but not knowing the full concept and all that, that's why I say I'm not sure. I don't know what his other options were, because on the first 3rd and 4, you go deep, and I love taking shots. I'm for it as much as the next guy, but it looked like he was kind of frustrated with him because there was another option maybe available, and there was a shot there, so he took it, but maybe that's not what they were going for. I love that they're putting the ball in the air in general. Our run game's been strong, but at the same time, I'm not anti-throw it 3rd and 4, but it's like, man, where's the happy medium, But I do love taking shots. I do love spreading it out, especially with the run game being the way it is. I mean, that's the only way to get some people out of the box and do that is to show some over-the-top threats. I don't know what the thought process was on if those were designed or if he just took those kind of on his own. I love the confidence, but I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the analysis that sums up.
Yeah.
The
It's like, we maybe just like, that's where I think, where I say there's some confusion, because maybe there's a conversation and he gave someone else a drive and said, hey, you call it this time, and someone else trying to prove a point of just airing it. Like there's just so where they are in the season, and not to be, Mr. Volatility, but there's a lot of voices that start to be heard, coaching staffs and coordinators or would-be coordinators, and people try to prove some points and frustrations, and so who knows? Maybe someone else gave him a drive and he's like, all right, let's air it out for whatever the reason. But again, I love that they're going and putting it in the air and trying to take a shot, but I don't know.
You're with us, Nick. I want to stay in place for just a second. Our good friend Andy, UCF XOS on Twitter, always talks about there's really no good play or good or bad play, right? It just either works or it doesn't. As a player, do you recognize that this is a good play, this is a bad play? Like, how do you kind of think about play calling in terms of good play, bad play, right time, wrong time? How does that kind of work from a player's perspective?
Yeah, no doubt. I think that as far as like the preparation goes and kind of building the play sheet and having confidence in when you're going to call certain plays, there's tendencies that I think that's when you feel a groove start to hit, where they're going to give you this look on third and medium, or they're this blitz percentage on third down, third and short, etc. So I think like you can always make the coach right, and that was something that was said a whole lot throughout my career with all coaching staffs is make us right. That can certainly happen. And that's why I bring up where, is it a bad call on 3rd and 4? Whose fault is it? Who knows? Because not knowing the whole concept of the protection or what it was or what he saw, without having the full context, I don't know. But I think that's when you really feel confident, when hey, we're looking for this. And when we make this call, if we have this personnel group and we have this matchup, or, hey, we're running this call into this blitz or this front, and we know we got them. To where, not to say if you don't have that look, it doesn't work out, right? Because ultimately there's down and distance, mostly which plays are called by front personnel, etc. But I think it's more that when there's more of a confidence that I can remember certain plays and you're under center and you just know you got them and you called the perfect play. There's some where it's not going to work, but it might, right? And that's. You have good talent, and you have RJ Harvey that can break a tackle and get you some extra yards. But yeah, it's certainly I think it's more when you've got him and you called the perfect play, where there's a difference.
Let's talk about Jakari for a second. He learned this week, according to Gus, that he's now the starting quarterback. You have been a guy that had to replace the starter and sort of come in and become sort of the lead guy. What kind of challenge does that present for Jakari? What does he need to do now as he's kind of taking over to win over his teammates and kind of win over the huddle?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a little less pressure being mid-year after some struggle. Not to say there's not a ton of pressure and high expectation. However, the alternative to that is KJ was here all last year and Jakari's week 1 starter, and we're coming off of, Mackenzie Milton being here and someone's taken over and the expectation's high, and that's tough. We were struggling a little bit. We're looking for a spark. They're going to give him a shot. I think there's almost an opportunity to ride a little bit of the lightning. And I speak on that because just like I mentioned, coaching staff stir a little bit, players do too. And you can feel the locker room, a little bit of excitement when a guy comes in and creates a little bit of a spark and you get that support. And so, I'm excited to maybe see him ride the lightning a little bit and feed off of that. I hope he does. I hope his guys support him. And not to say that guys are not wanting KJ to maybe get an opportunity or support him as well. But he's been pretty supportive from what it's looked like on TV on the sidelines, which is awesome. But I just think it's a cool opportunity for him and his teammates to support in that capacity. And I think it's a better situation mid-season after some struggle where, you can provide a spark. You can be that guy if he's got any confidence in the world. So, which he's done. He's answered the bell, I feel like, and, brought that excitement a little bit, brought some energy.
UCF knew what they had in Kobe Hudson, but the question going into this season was who would step up elsewhere at wide receiver. And I feel like we're going into an 8th game still asking that question. Can the wide receivers do something here to help out Jakari?
The coaches can. Play calling can a little bit. I think. I think it's been tough, and not to just put it on the coaching and the play calling, but it's tough enough for Cobb to get in a rhythm and step up and be a dominant guy when the pass concepts don't call for multiple people to spread the ball out and get a bunch of touches. The run game does, and jet sweeps do, and the way that they get creative in the screen game. So, I mean, I'd like to say yes. I don't think that the passing game supports other guys stepping up per se. I think this is the prime opportunity, especially with, an outside receiver that's really good, where a good tight end or a slot guy takes a little bit of pressure off. That can create a really big problem on the outside. It creates mismatches, takes a little bit of over top coverage off of the outside guys when you gotta appreciate and respect the seam, when you've got a tight end or a slot guy that can create a numbers game and stretch the field. We don't really have that, but we don't really have that in our passing game. And so I think that they can do that with more multiple man routes, with more progression stuff. Now, are they going to change the offense mid-season? No. But I'd like to say yes, but I don't know what the receivers can do per se. It's not like they've given them a bunch of opportunities. We've got a bunch of drops, and we've got guys that can't answer the bell. I just don't think that there's been that many opportunities there to take pressure off Cobb,
So I know the score reads Iowa State 38, UCF 35, but it feels like the defense played better. They were just on the field an awful lot in the second half. What did you see that you were encouraged by from the Knights D?
Yeah, totally. I think that that game, it was extremely frustrating because it did feel a lot closer, and it felt a lot more controlled, I felt like, than most games. I think this is where a lot of the frustration comes from too, not to answer the question in a different direction, but a lot of the frustration from the fan base comes because they have that type of showing on the defense side of the ball as well, more so than anything. And it's like, man, where is this, or where, how can we reproduce that? I think the linebacker play can get a little bit better. That was one weakness that I saw is some missed tackles and a little bit of athleticism gap. But I think that they were flying around. The defense continues to show some energy, which I think is good. I think that, they put pressure on people on the outside. The DBs run around and filling gaps and they play hard nosed. But I just think they could create. I think this is the time where, man, if you can get turnovers and special teams plays and things like that to kind of support the offense a little bit, that is where, especially with Jakari coming in and being a new starter, a young guy, that's where you catch a little bit of juice. So if there's something I'm looking for from the defense, I don't know if that answers your question, but it would be that, which I think they can do and produce.
Nick, take me to the mind of a player. Obviously, we lose to Colorado. Really not in that game very much, right? Go to Florida. We're in it a little bit late. They take the lead. We can't come back. A dogfight against Cincinnati. We don't win. A close one against Iowa State. Is there a momentum wave where you start to feel like, hey, this thing is gonna break? Like, how do you maintain that positivity when you're facing such adversity, such losses, but you feel like you're so close?
Yeah, totally. Great question. I think, a lot of that stems from experienced coaches as well, knowing that trying to find something to play for. Naturally in the game that we're in, there's a lot of guys that have potential maybe to play at the next level, but also in the game we're in, to put good stuff on tape to do that. And not to say you just play to transfer, but there's always reasons to play now, right? And that are different a little bit from when I was there. I think a little bit of the leadership of finding something to play for, we do still have a chance, hopefully to get bowl eligible. I don't really know. It's so frustrating with the ups and downs, but I think it lands on the coaches. I think it's just the dialogue that's in the locker room, especially with our fan base and media and things like that, with Gus and you read articles about his buyout and all of that. That type of dialogue creeps in and starts conversations, and it's extremely toxic. So, finding a place where there's something to play for, where your goals that you set aren't there anymore to reach, and it seems like you're so much further probably than you are. It's finding something, a new goal and having some good veteran leadership that can set those.
Well, you mentioned it, right? So, I mean, I look at the screen here. You didn't play all that long ago. It feels like you were just playing a year ago, but back when you were playing, social media was not as big as it is now. Everything's on Twitter, everything's on Instagram, letters to the coach, like people who are kissing in the locker room, all that stuff is out there and available for players.
That, by the way, Adam, is where things started to go downhill.
Yes. All that's available out there for players. A lot of people are wondering, did Gus lose the locker room? Is the locker room lost? As a player, is there any credence to that? Like, is there really, quote unquote, losing the locker room? And as somebody who observes a lot of football, are there things you can see where you can recognize, hey, this team is still united? Or are there things that you see where you're like, I don't love what I'm seeing here?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think, yeah, I was in a locker room that certainly felt lost to the coaching staff. However, he never lost his influence. And obviously, speaking about O'Leary, right? That was probably as much as you can get with having a disconnect between players and direction and all that, while still, having the respect for your coach. And I think that is what I think we're there still with Gus, and he's earned that, right? I think that's the difference with locker rooms and places in other places with unproven leadership. Whether it be a young coach or a coach that has kind of barely won and is climbing the ladder fast. Gus has been there, done that, and he does. And I know that was a little narrative of like, I think you guys said it earlier, like his same old, been doing this a long time type of thing. But I do think there's some merit to that, to your question, in the locker room, because there is a confidence that there's been a lot of big games and a lot of good talent produced, and a lot of wins. And so, are we there right now? No, but I think that the progression's been there. We are so close, and we shouldn't be yet, right? And with our Big 12 jump and all that good stuff, I mean, I think that's something that's lost is we really shouldn't be this close, in my opinion. I didn't think we'd be so fast. Are we happy this year? No, but and so I think that I still believe that the team is there because people are fighting hard. We're playing complete games. You don't see a bunch of BS penalties of people making stupid mistakes and doing some stupid stuff. So I think those are the type of signs. But I feel like, and the narratives in interviews and things like that, you can kind of just hear that slipping. And that was the same way with O'Leary. It's in the locker room and at study hall, there was conversations. It's like, man, I'm over this guy. But no one ever lost respect for him in the way that we carried our business. And when he said something, you respected it because you sort of earned that. So I think that's sort of where they're at. I believe that.
I like that you ended with some positivity there, Nick. Nick, glad to have you back on Sons of UCF Live. Family good?
Family's great. Yeah, we're +1. She's a couple weeks old now, so we're in it a little bit. But she's a huge Knight fan already. She's very, very excited.
Oh. That is good. That is good. Congrats to the family. Nick, great seeing you again. Thanks for being with us on Sons of UCF Live.
Absolutely. Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. All right. I say this after every interview when we have a guest. Do you feel a little more positive, Adam?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's interesting, that parallel that he just drew between the 2015 team and sort of how things went into this team. Obviously, certainly not a team that hasn't won a game like 2015, but I enjoyed that parallel. And again, I think you're seeing week after week, it feels like we're so close, and then something else pops up, right? And it almost feels like it, I hate to say this because I feel like it's a sickness for all of us if you're a United fan, but I feel like we're due at some point, right? I feel like we're due at some point. I have no idea if it's this week or not, but I feel like at some point, all this is going to come together. It's all going to be there, but you never know.
Yeah, coming together nicely for me in the Big 12 Pick'em as we hit that stretch run in the second half of the season. Let's hear from Jeff Allen in this week's Big 12 Minute.
7 games are on tap in the Big 12 this week, with all games on Saturday. Oklahoma State is at Baylor, 3:30 on ESPN+. Texas Tech visits TCU, 3:30 on Fox. Arizona hosts West Virginia, 7 o'clock on FS1. Utah travels to Houston, 7 o'clock on ESPN+. The Sunflower Showdown between Kansas and number 16 Kansas State is at 8 o'clock on ESPN2. Cincinnati at Colorado in a matchup of 3-1 teams that are among a 4-way tie for second place in the conference. That'll be in Big 12 After Dark at 10:15 on ESPN. Number 10, Iowa State, which is unbeaten and tied for first in the conference, and Arizona State have the byes this week. Number 11, BYU is at UCF, trying to remain unbeaten on the season and move into sole possession of first place by a half game in the Big 12. The Cougars had to rally with a late TD to beat Oklahoma State 38-35 in the final minute last week, while the Knights' losing streak now at 4 games. Clearly, these two teams are going in opposite directions, which could make this game ripe for an upset if BYU looks ahead to its rivalry game with Utah next week. The players of the week were Baylor quarterback Sawyer Robertson on offense, who had a career-high 5 passing TDs against Texas Tech. Kobe Bryant of Kansas on defense tied the Jayhawk record with 3 picks against Houston, and Colorado kicker Alejandro Mata on special teams tallied 10 points by going 2 for 2 on field goals and hitting all 4 extra points against Arizona. With your Big 12 Minute, I'm Jeff Allen.
Look ahead, BYU. Keep looking ahead.
You know how you can tell things are bad? Last year, Jeff used to make predictions about UCF. You know, he would tell you if he thought the Knights would win. He stopped that a couple weeks ago. That's how you can tell how bad things have been around here.
You remember, it wasn't that long ago. We were in Las Vegas for Big 12 Media Days, had opportunity to speak with BYU personnel, including BYU head coach Kalani Sitake, who commented with us on head coach Gus Malzahn.
I've been an admirer of Gus Malzahn as a coach and things that he's done in his career. Also, I got to know him quite a bit in the last few years.
It's a little. It's definitely a change. You know, hearing a random there talking to me, but I love it. It's like
what a great person.
Look at the side, look back, and I figured I
my
could figure it
friendship
out while
with
we
him.
started.
I've been really impressed with this team and watching them play. I mean, it makes sense that he gets to play at a high level.
So it's got a lot of voices.
A couple different interviews
voices
going on
in my
there.
head, Adam.
A couple different interviews going on. Don't worry about it. It's again the acoustics at Legion Stadium.
Very
Not
much.
strong. Not strong.
Yeah, but you know who does a good job? Ron Weaver III, part of the team with Cougar Sports. Ben Criddle, ESPN 960. I was happy to be a part of their program earlier today. Ron, welcome into Sons of UCF Live.
Thank you to be guys. Great stuff. Happy to be on today.
All right, tell me what most surprises you about this BYU start. I mean, come on, who saw it coming?
No one saw it coming, not even myself. I picked the team at the beginning of the year to be 7-5 somewhere, you know, about maybe 8th or 9th in the Big 12.
You may still be right.
I still may be right. It's still time. So, Cougar fans, don't be mad at me. 5 losses in a row could happen. It did happen last year, so that's a nurture thing that could happen. You never know. So BYU is not allergic to that. Don't think it will happen. I think I'm very wrong about that, as well as the rest of Cougar Nation, all fans, all of the media. I think the big surprise was definitely the offense. Jake Retzlaff last year played in 4 games, turned the football most turnover-prone college football quarterback in 4 games, and I think that's the biggest thing. And then up front, the offensive line, the hire of T.J. Woods that Kalani Sitake made, paying dividends. That last year they couldn't block to save a cold, for crying out loud. Averaging the lowest in his career time of being a coach of rushing yards, and it just wasn't working. They couldn't get a push up front. You couldn't protect anybody, and it was all bad. And this is now a coach, if he continues to win, that can honestly be in the running for National Coach Player of the Year.
How about that? Jake Retzlaff, what does he do well? It seems like a lot.
He does a lot well. The biggest thing is to extend the pocket. You call it a gunslinger for a reason. So you compare it to the Brett Favre, the Josh Allen, the Patrick Mahomes. Just when the pocket collapses, he doesn't give up on it. So I think that's a really good thing that he's able to do. Stay in the pocket. He gives his receiver times and a lot of good balls. You know, a lot of – you say give him a 50-50 ball, it's a little bit more than that. Jake doesn't give a 50-50 ball. The ball is right there, leads his receiver to his target, and you saw that in the last game against Oklahoma State. You're at the 35-yard line, 19 seconds in the timeout. So realistically, you're looking at one play, one timeout, and maybe one more shot at the end zone, depending how you play it out. What does he do? He finds Darius Lassiter off of a comeback route. Another guy cleared out on the seam route, and then they took it to the house and ended the game in Oklahoma State's dream of upset, washing down the tunnel pretty much. So that's what he does well, is composure, leadership, all of that. You think a guy who would have turned the football over as much last year would have maybe turned it over there and BYU would have got their first loss. Did not. He executed, and BYU still undefeated in the conference play and on the season.
Ron, obviously you're talking about Retzlaff's ability in the air. He's also the leading rusher for BYU this season so far. Talk about his threat from a running quarterback, from a running game perspective. How dangerous is he in that avenue?
Absolutely. When he gets involved in the running game, Aaron Roderick has the full playbook at his disposal with Jake Retzlaff, and that's what really makes BYU a dangerous team and a dangerous team the last 5 years as Aaron Roderick is the offensive coordinator. Look at all the quarterbacks that have run. Zach Wilson, Jaron Hall, even Baylor Romney. This is not just starting with Jake Retzlaff. This goes back to Aaron Roderick's tenure when he first got to BYU, and that's what he likes to do. He likes to have the quarterbacks run, and Jake is a dynamic runner. He's a guy, honestly, I don't want to compare him like this, but it's like Patrick Mahomes' speed in a way. He's a little bit deceiving with it when he's able to run in that. You don't look at him as a very fast guy, but he's athletic. And guys that play baseball at the quarterback position are a little bit different. Even look at Matthew Stafford in NFL. When he gets running too, he's a guy. Golf. There's multiple guys that you wouldn't think that would be runners, but when they are used in a QB run game or they do use their legs, they're very hard to bring down.
Ron, how would you describe this BYU offense? What are their strengths? Or are they a spread team? Are they kind of a read option team? How would you describe the system they run?
This team definitely likes to go spread and PO when they're running the football well. You can best believe that that's what they're going to do against UCF. They're going to spread them out. They're going to use Darius Lassiter. They're going to use Chase Roberts. They're going to use Keith Marin. They're going to make people play one-on-one football, and they like people to play man. They really do. Those receivers like that. They accept the challenge in the Big 12. They know that there are Big 12 corners that are really good. But look what they did to Baylor. You had an all-conference and all-American DB, and then you had an all-conference safety, and look what they were able to do. They were able to exploit that offense and score 4 straight drives. So that's what this offense likes to do. But don't get it twisted at the same time. They will run the football. Look at Oklahoma State. In the snap, 10 straight runs before they even pass the football. So best believe they'll put it to the boys up front. And I just have to highlight the run game for a second. They're doing this without their leader and their 6-year senior, Connor Pay. He's out right now with the foot injury. He won't be back, expected to be back for the Utah game for what sources say. But Connor is not playing. You got Bruce, who's a third-string center, who's a walk-on, no scholarship, a guy that played in that right guard position against Kansas State and has been the starting center the last 2 weeks. So look phenomenal. So best believe when BYU needs to turn around and put the ball in LJ Martin's stomach or Sione Aimoa or Hinkley Ropati, whoever the running back that gets their name called for Saturday is going to be able to run the football.
UCF was on the wrong side of a 38-35 score in Ames, Iowa. BYU on the right side of 38-35 over Oklahoma State. But Oklahoma State ran the ball well. They were strong on 3rd and 4th down. Made the defense perhaps be a little bit of an Achilles heel for this Cougars team.
Absolutely. I know things have changed down in Orlando at the beginning of the season. I talked to you about this, Trace, and I'll tell you this. When I saw KJ Jefferson and RJ Harvey standing next to each other at Big 12 Media Day, I said that is the best running back quarterback duo in the Big 12. Not even a question.
Yeah, that's what we thought.
Well,
that's what we thought, right? That's what I thought at the second. There's one thing proven. RJ Harvey's going to play on Sundays. He's still going to play on Sundays. There's no doubt about that. That guy's going to play on Sundays wherever he's at. We were wrong about other things, but look at the depth in the quarterback room still at UCF. You got a guy that played in Miami. You know, this one of the best running backs that was in the state of Florida. As a quarterback position, like that's not going to give up. I honestly think that's what UCF's game should complete. Run it down their throats. You had success when Ollie Gordon did it. I mean, Ollie Gordon's best game of the season came against BYU, and in the game, 3 total touchdowns. And that's what you should do with RJ Harvey. You should be going everything. You should be going RPO. You should be going pitch. You should be in between the tackles, outside zone, inside zone, because BYU's been proven to have a problem stopping the run game. Kalani Sitake said it in his press game this week. Defensive tackle position, the interiors are a little bit banged up. It's Nick. Take advantage of it. That happened last year when John Nelson went out the game. When Blake Mingleton went out the game, BYU didn't win a game for the rest of the season following the Texas Tech game, and they were 5-2. They lost 5 straight games. So that's how you attack this defense. You do it from the interior out. And honestly, I said it at the beginning of the season. I'll say it again now. This UCF team, this game, this scares me the most. It's not the Utah game. It's this game right here. It's traveling to Orlando. It's going to the bounce house. It's Gus Malzahn. It's RJ Harvey. It's the explosive offense. It's the run game. It's the speed defense. This one could be a nightmare for BYU on Saturday.
Yeah, let's talk about that travel a little bit. We know BYU is so strong at home, and they love the night games. They got to travel across country. I've been following your equipment truck, the Cougars equipment truck, took 42 hours to get from Utah's a long way away. I know it's just a plane trip, but going to be mid-80s. There'll be some humidity. Maybe they're looking ahead a little bit too, and you think they're ripe for an upset? I mean, Vegas seems to think so, right? The gamblers.
Here's the thing about Vegas. BYU, honestly, until next year, and fans are going to be mad at me, should not be favored in any game, unless it's maybe a Kansas or a Houston at home.
So why is UCF favored in any game?
Well, I think the reason is because it's a game at home. BYU has proven, to win that game against Baylor. But outside of that, what have they really proven on the road besides that one game? And Baylor right now is not looking like a good team. And I think that's why. And I think the reason why, honestly, if you're a betting man, this game is terrible to bet on. Do not bet on this game if you're a gambling man. You're going to lose all your money if you do, because it could go well for UCF. It could very well flip this way for BYU. So I would not bet personally. I don't gamble, but for those that do, don't do that. Don't be mad at Gus Malzahn or Kalani Sitake, because somebody's going to have to lose their money on Saturday. But I think it's because, the Knights do play well at home, and I think that BYU traveling, BYU having played that game, teams, that play that bad at home and then have to go on the road are known historically for having that game repeatedly and then finally getting it caught up and losing. And I think finally maybe the Big 12 people have figured out something about BYU's defense and how you can have success. And I think with how much UCF runs football, BYU's not known to play like that. Now, I will say this. Jay Hill has no problem dialing up blitzes and pressures. He doesn't want to do that. They're going to try to commit to the run. Think of a UCF. You take pieces from that Coastal Carolina, film. I know it was a different coordinator, different team long time ago, but when they want to go cover two, run the football. When they want to stack the box and you've established a run and it's going well, do play action, because BYU safeties look a little bit vulnerable in that secondary when they have to stop the run. You go play action, and that's going back to the Arizona game with Tetero and McMillan and things like that. So it's definitely some success UCF can have on Saturday, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
What kind of a crowd do you expect coming out to Orlando, Ron? I know BYU fans typically travel really well. What kind of crowd do you expect coming to Orlando on Saturday?
If you are a Knight fan, listen to me. I'm going to look directly in the camera. Do not allow BYU fans to start the BYU chant in the bounce house. Don't let me be disappointed. They travel well. There's a bunch of people down there in Florida that want to go. My grandpa's down there. I got family. They were trying me to go to the game. Not going to happen. I expect a good crowd at the end of the day. I think you're going to have a great turnout. I think it'll be 60-40 UCF, but it very well could fill 30-70 BYU. So I think because it's homecoming week for UCF, I think this is one, and the reason why I think this is one of the games BYU can get upset in, I think you might even have a good amount of attendance, close to maybe even being sold out. I know that's not a historic thing maybe to happen, but with BYU, how well it travels, the brand, you just getting one games. You're at home for this one. You feel extremely confident. The nerves aren't there. You're in your backyard. I definitely think there'll be a good turnout. I expect it to be. And I hope the crowd noise does affect BYU, because I think BYU needs to play more in these environments of going, because guess what's going to happen? The more you win, the bigger moment. Let's say you do make it to the title game. You're going to be playing down in Arlington in AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. That's a big time. What if you win that game? You're going to go on a bigger stage. So I think they need to play in more hostile environments. So I hope that the Knights fan base and, they show up and they show out, because BYU needs to honestly be disrupted. You need to disrupt their line of scrimmage. And I may add that because I looked up a stat the other day. BYU averages about, I think it's, 14.8, 15.3 false starts in the season. This year they've had 2. And that's what I mean by the Knights crowd has to show up. You need to make sure that 2 goes to 4, because BYU's offensive line, if they can establish what they want to establish, it's going to be a long night for the Knights.
BYU was picked 13th overall in the preseason football poll. They're now 7-0, ranked number 11. How did that happen?
Kalani Sitake of staying humble and hungry. I really think, I like to say it in sports of, have a chip on your shoulder. Let somebody, make you angry. It's kind of like what's going on in basketball right now with the Jason Tatum and the Steve Kerr of, people feel sorry for the league because he pushed them. I think you need motivation like that. And I think this team being picked in, Jake Reslov even said it after the first game after SIU, which is, an FCS team. He said, yeah, our own media is not even picking us. And I think everything that they're using fuel-wise is to do that. And BYU team's second year, having guys in the system, not bringing guys in the transfer portal, has done a good job. They know the system a little bit better. They're also, the depth is a little bit better. Look at the cornerback position. Last year, it wasn't as short as it was. You really were just relying on Jacob Robinson. Now you got an Evan Johnson. You got a Maury Bamba. There are other dudes in that wide receiver. This is the deepest wide receiver has ever gotten. I talked to the wide receivers coach 2 weeks ago. Fesi Sitake's like, in my time at BYU, this is the deepest. I know a Puka Nacua is a Puka Nacua, but I got Darius Roberts. I got a Cody Hagan, who's coming in. I got, Tay Nakua, who's the brother. Like, he has so many options, and it could be a different each week. I think that's the frustrating part for some of these players is back in the day, maybe a guy got, 8 targets. It's not how it's going to be. You're spreading the ball around. So I think at the end of the day, that's what's made them so successful, being humble and hungry and having second year in the program, because you look across college football, a lot of guys that are transferring first year. I'm not going to mention another team in Florida because we won't set it on the program because there's only one Florida team that we mentioned, not doing so hot. But that's what happens when you bring up transfers in and it just doesn't work out. And you saw that last year at BYU. Over half of the roster was transfer guys, and it went terrible. But this year, a lot of those guys in their second understand what they're doing, depth, and now they're 7-0 in the Big 12 Conference. No one thought this could be a thing, not even myself.
Get you out of here on this one. 30 seconds real quick. Men's basketball. Do you believe in this team? UCF and BYU had a lot of memorable games in their first season in the Big 12.
Johnny Dawkins, I apologize, brother. This is not fair. You had Mark Pope, and now you got Kevin Young. Oh my goodness. It's not fair in that regard. That's not fair to him. But no, I love this. This is going to be a rivalry going for the future. But I believe in Kevin Young for sure, the pedigree. He's turned it into a mini NBA factory. I expect big things from the BYU basketball. I'm going to say it right now on your show, 2 first-round picks in next year's draft.
You heard it here. Ron Weaver III. We appreciate you being with us on Sons of UCF Live.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ron.
All right. Talk to you during basketball season. Thanks much. All right. I'm not sure how the Knights are going to play. I feel a little encouraged by ways you can beat BYU, but I'll tell you what, they're going to look good. Talk a little bit, Adam, about the inspiration for the Suns logo when you created it.
Yeah, I'd like to say I created it, but we, Mike and I, obviously, when we started the show, we went to school in 98 to 02, and so that was kind of a bygone era for us. And when we met with our guy Chris Robinson, who designed the logo, we talked about kind of being a throwback to UCF, and that's kind of how that came about. So was kind of by accident. It's kind of what our time of UCF was, and this was kind of a throwback to honor our time at UCF. So I understand it, Trace. I think the uniforms may be coming back. Is that helmet coming back?
It may be. Let's hear
find
from
out.
Christian Simmons from the Pegasus podcast.
This is a good uniform. This is a really, really, really good uniform. This week, we have the Lance logo back on the gold helmets for the first time since 2006, pairing it with the Night Mode jerseys and the black pants. This is a really freaking good look. The complaints about lack of gold feel very long ago. All of a sudden, we got gold, white, black on the road last week, and now this awesome look for homecoming. What makes this extra cool is, obviously we haven't seen this logo in forever, and it's really stood the test of time. I mean, this looks really good on the helmet. The state of Florida that they've worn before looks like a true throwback. This could be UCF's logo today, and it would work. I mean, this is just a strong uniform. The other cool thing is that these new gold helmets the UCF just unveiled last year are the closest to the shade of gold they had in the early 2000s as anything they've worn over the last 15 plus years. So that really helps this look too. I mean, I'm so excited to see this. This and the Space Game back to back is like the happiest I'm going to be ever in my entire life. I mean, this right here might be my favorite look of the year. I can't imagine anyone having any major problems with this one. Heck of a look.
I like to razz Christian that he loves everything, every uniform combo, but he's right this week. This one looks sharp.
It's a good. I'm wearing the throwback shirt here. I don't know if you can see it. It's a good look. I actually think he may be right. Like if we went back to this logo here, you wouldn't hear any complaints from this guy.
No, we needed something to coalesce the fan base around some good. And those of you watching, following us on social media, they also released some more look of the Space Game uniform. That's just a week or so out. And you right there can win an opportunity or can win a jersey, right?
You sure can. Go to our Twitter account or X account, whatever you call it. I think it's x.com now /SonsUCF. We have a contest going with our good friends at Alumni Hall. We're going to give away one Space Game jersey. Contest rules are pretty simple. You can read them on X there, but I'll tell you quickly. Guess the total number of points scored during the BYU UCF game by both teams. And then our tiebreakers are who wins the game and total number of passing yards by UCF only in the game. So go to our X account. Well, somebody guessed 300 and something. God bless that, man. I love that. I saw as high as 300. I saw as low as like 72. So
yeah, I'd say closer to 70.
The gamut is there, but go to our X account, our Twitter account, get a chance to enter in. The goal is we'll stop this Saturday. We think we can have this jersey to you by next Saturday. So you can actually wear this jersey while you go to the Space Game. So have a Space jersey at the Space Game, all thanks to our good friends at Alumni Hall.
Yeah, are we eligible? Am I eligible? Can I guess?
Yeah, I'm in. You know what? Listen, this is luck. You don't know anything more than anybody else does.
No, I don't know anything. I don't know anything.
Clearly, none of us know anything because I had us with like 8 wins. So go ahead, Trace, get in there.
There's still a chance, right? You can catch Christian Simmons, Bailey Adams, and the Pegasus podcast now on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel, including their post-game breakdown episode. So we welcome them as part of the team. All right, let's go around, look at some news and notes around the kingdom.
I'm Jordan Ivy Curry, and let's go around the kingdom.
That guy, by the way, has some confidence. He exudes
I saw
confidence. I know coming up as we get closer to the opener, you'll be releasing some of those interviews, some interesting guys to get to know a little bit better. Men's basketball overshadowing the exhibition win. The Knights beat Florida Gulf Coast 92-78. Keyshawn Hall, 23 points, 13 rebounds. Darius Johnson, reliable guy, been here for years now, 17 points, 5 threes. But the uncertainty that surrounded Jalen Sellers being stretchered off. I know it wasn't televised. You saw the video Andrew Cherico shot. Very uncomfortable moments. We just didn't know what was going on, and your heart goes out to him.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw the video, it doesn't look like a really aggressive contact. He gets a little bit of a sort of a bump as he's trying to kind of go around the defender and then sort of goes down. Certainly still don't know updates yet. Johnny Dawkins was at Big 12 Media Day on Wednesday, announced that there's still no update. What he said post-presser was, getting imaging and he'll know more soon. So we still don't yet know what the status is of that. I don't think there's a time for us to talk to Johnny for the next week or so, Trey. So it may be a while until we find out.
Yeah, let's hear from Coach Dawkins after Sunday's exhibition on staying together as a team after Sellers left with the injury.
Every day, guard our culture. That's part of our culture. And so what you saw these guys exhibit, when he went down is what we working on and what we talk about, how we need to be as people, how we need to be as men. And so you saw that caring for a fellow teammate or a fellow person.
Yeah, and they handled that well. You mentioned, by the way, when we'll have opportunity to hear from Coach Dawkins. We're told after the exhibition Tuesday at Georgia at 7 o'clock and sometime before the home opener. So maybe a Thursday, Friday next week, media availability, and maybe they'll have some more information. You and Andrew Cherico got together on the new program, Sons Today, because there just aren't enough programs on the Sons of UCF. But you broke down, spent a lot of time on hoops, and we're going to be doing that over the weeks ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew did a great job. He was there and gave us a firsthand account of not just obviously the unfortunate incident with Jalen Sellers, but the entire the team. Obviously, 11 new faces, so a lot to kind of learn, understand about the squad. Andrew knows basketball really well. So if you have not heard that, go to our podcast player feed, go to our YouTube channel. You can find Sons Today. It'll be out a couple times a week whenever we get the kind of the fancy. I think the traditional pod will be on the ice for a little bit, but we'll try to get a couple of things out each week just to keep things moving. I already taped something for next week. I think it'll be really cool. So again, don't do anything different. Subscribe to the podcast feed, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's all there for you too. So continue to follow what we're doing here at Sons of UCF.
Yeah. And just a quick note, if you're just joining us, you hadn't heard the just sad news out of Tampa today.
Oof,
South Florida's head coach, Abdur Rahim, passing away during surgery today, age 43, wife, couple of kids, and obviously a basketball team in mourning. And I know we get competitive with them, but I can't. It's unfathomable to me, a young man and of that age. And we had opportunity to speak with him post game after South Florida beat UCF. And sharp, talented, and loved by his team. And that is a tough one this Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, basketball pales in comparison. He was 43 years old, father of 3 young kids. I mean, that's probably the most important thing to think about is his family and what they're going to go through. But to your point, Trace, a darn good basketball coach. Was successful at Kennesaw State. Definitely had the cows kind of going in the right direction. And just terrible news. Heart goes out to the players, to the staff, his family, that community. We've dealt with some tragedy here at UCF, and it certainly is a tough one. And rivalries go out the window in situations like this because, again, a great coach, but probably even better person. And certainly just a sad story. I couldn't believe it when I read it. I thought it had to be one of those fake accounts and that I was getting tricked by something. Just a sad story overall.
And a reminder that we just don't know when it is our time. And so rest in peace. Awkward segue to some other news and notes, but men's soccer, they get the win on Wednesday night, 2-1 against Kentucky. They are on the road now at Georgia Southern on Sunday. Improved to 3-3 in the Sun Belt. They've got Luca Dorado back at the right time and Juan V. Munoz in goal. So perhaps a little bit of a run here, 53rd in the RPI. So kind of a bubble situation. They're going to need some more wins to find themselves into the NCAA tournament. Most likely not the case for women's soccer. They fall to 1-5-3 overall in the Big 12. They lost TCU. They lost Oklahoma State. They host Cincinnati Friday at 6 o'clock at the soccer complex. Volleyball struggling too, 1-6 in the Big 12. Got swept against Colorado and then lost at West Virginia. They host Houston also Friday. So soccer at 6, volleyball at 7. We discussed quite a few things this week on Around the Kingdom. We hope you haven't missed that amidst all of the content that's been coming out. Here's a clip from this week's show.
I've thought about it. I'm going to say no. I think you're wrong. I thought about it for 20, 30 seconds. It was a dramatic pause because I was thinking about it. Could Trace be right? No.
You seem otherwise occupied.
Can they win on the road? Can they win on the road, Trace? Can they win at Arizona State? Can they win?
They've won on the road, Elo, and a massive comeback
Where?
at TCU. They've proven that they can win on the road.
Another one? Can you give me another one? Are you going to give me another one? Another win. What about Utah? Now, I think Utah, they can win. We'll see. I think it's close. You got to steal another road game, in my opinion, and hold serve at home.
So, for point of clarification, was the dramatic pause because he was drafting in round 17 and 18?
I can't
NBA
prove it
fantasy
wasn't.
Draft?
I can't prove it wasn't. But
He
if
did
it
pick
was,
Taylor Hendricks, though.
He did. If it was, that was fantastic timing. This part. My favorite part is he says, "Who's going to win? When are we going to win?" Trace, and you go TCU. He goes, "Do it again." I love that you gave him an answer. He realized he was boxed in and just told you to do it again. That was fantastic.
Yeah, and I know because I tossed to it that you always like to start with Elo, but it is always just right out of the gates. A big Elo moment.
That's what it is. That's what we got to do.
All right, before we roll this mailbag open, have there been edits?
Listen, Trace, it's been a long week. I mean, I think what like I counted like 15 something videos or shows we put up this week.
It could be.
We had an internship, 2 articles on the website. I mean, your boy here's been busy.
Robert with his recap of
exactly.
Big thanks to Robert.
Doing a great job. Doing a great job. Big Robert.
There's no edit here. There's still
it didn't happen this week. But next week's schedule looks a little lighter. So I think maybe next week is your week. But for this week, enjoy.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
Literally, I mean, I saw this guy's whole ass.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did this. I zoomed in.
I have honked the horn before.
Yo!
Because I don't really like any of these guys. None of them are my guys.
Maybe a pony.
Giddy up.
Oh, hell yeah.
It still holds up, though. I'm not going to lie to you. It holds up.
If you didn't see enough of Brian W. Peterson there, he's also featured on this week's Up All Night with Clay Pasco and Andrew Jericho. About 17 minutes of this show are just promoting all
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, actually.
Hey, video questions are back. Our buddy Nelson from Georgia. Looking forward to what he has.
Hey, Sons. Here in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and I had a question for tonight's live show. Do you think we make a bowl game? Go Knights and charge on.
Not in Georgia.
No.
Clarifying. Not in Georgia.
I guess not. No, Gulf of Mexico there. Yeah, there's no way he's in Georgia there.
No. Bowl game? The quest for 6?
I want to say
I feel a lot better about it if they get the win over BYU. I like the
say that
chances
too. I want to say that too, but that's the problem is then I have to wait another week. So you're asking me right now, I'm going to say I don't think so. Well, somebody's asking me right now. I'm going to say no. But if we beat BYU, I take that back.
I think about the same way. At J.A. Hadaway. Has Gus lost the locker room, or is it just a bunch of social media baloney? There's a lot of social media baloney, right? I mean, it's funny. It's funny at the fan base. I know it's not just UCF's, but we love a guy when he leaves his other team and comes in from the portal, and we get all upset about the guys that leave UCF to go to the portal. Unless maybe coaches have determined they're not good enough. And then we rally to the defense and we hate the coaching staff. And people are just frustrated.
Listen, I'm far from a guy who's going to be a Gus defender. I'm not going to be a boom addict per se. I'll just say this, and in a small defense for Gus Malzahn, for anybody out there who's ever like managed somebody at work or managed a team, imagine managing a team of 105 people and getting all of them to love you and like you fully.
And
plus staff. Exactly. Yeah. That's a tough task. Everybody's going to have their own individual experience with it. So do I think he's lost the locker room? No. Do I think they all like him? Do I think they're all happy? Do I think they're all content? I also don't think that's true either. But do I think people are going to throw their cleats in the air and walk out and never play again? Most likely not. But that mean they like the guy? Probably not either.
Yeah, Mr. Matt Dolan, good to see Matt in Iowa. What's the most memorable moment of the UCF football season so far? The successful extra point by Colton Boomer.
That's what I wrote down too. I wrote that we don't practice this.
No,
I
we
wrote
don't
that same thing down. I wrote down Boomer's extra point, who doesn't even play here anymore.
Yeah, at UCF XOS. Andy, is it possible the last 5 games of the season easier than the most recent 5? Yes. Yeah, we thought the first half of the season was the easy part of the schedule. It may be the second half that gives them some window of opportunity here.
There's some teams struggling. West Virginia wants to fire Neil Brown just as bad as we want to fire Gus Malzahn.
People are having a good time though in Morgantown.
They don't Everyone calls Utah's quarterback Zach Wilson's brother doesn't even know his real name. Arizona is kind of struggling a little bit.
Hello, Zach Wilson's brother. What do you think of what?
It could be possible. It could be possible, but I also know UCF, and so probably not.
At Young Bloke, given that the surprisingly tougher part of the conference schedule is coming to an end after BYU and our team starting to show some signs of improvement, do we actually have a shot at making a bowl game? That's sort of mirrored what Nelson said. Yeah, but it still kind of hinges on beating BYU. But we say that every week. It's the most important game of the season.
I also have a shot at marrying Scarlett Johansson, right? Anything is possible, my friends.
At Nightmares J, need 3 more wins to maintain bowl eligibility streak. Of the ones on the schedule, which are the 3 most winnable?
Well, we never lose a space game. So Arizona. Utah has.
I like what somebody said. Gus, are you going to take that away from us too? Are you going to lose that game too?
It's going to be awkward for Jeff Sharon to pronounce Zach Wilson's brother over the PA when Utah plays, but I think maybe Utah. And then give me West Virginia because we're going to have a good time. They're going to have a good time, but hopefully we win the game.
I need wins over BYU and Arizona State in the Around the Kingdom prop bet. So that's what I need. At _all_night_Miles, is there a chance the Big 12 isn't one of the 4 conferences to receive a top seed and a bye in the first round of the 12-team playoff? I can't imagine that happening. He mentions number 17 Boise State, 23 Army, 24 Navy. How about the service academies, by the way? No transfer portal, no NIL, just tough guys. Maybe we just need more tough guys.
I think it's technically, I don't know what the rules are, but I can absolutely see Big 12 being shut out because it's the playoff committee and they do whatever the heck they want for TV purposes. So I don't put anything past that group.
At Rock Solid Dennis, Gus says that Jakari has a great arm. However, after Saturday, Night Nation believes otherwise. Whether the chances the missed connections are simply the result of a lack of reps. I mean, I don't find this to be a defense, but Gus does sort of float this. Well, he's new. He hasn't played much. Yeah, because you have dipped into the portal for players. I thought it was interesting what Ron said, by the way, about BYU. Stacked heavy a season ago with portal guys. It's taken them a while to find their footing. And I think you see Night Nation saying, just go with the young guys and stop going into the portal so much. I don't think they found the balance on that yet. But I agree that Jakari just needs more playing time for the ones.
I think both things can be true. I think he can have a great arm, but does he have decision making? Does he have accuracy? Is he familiar with the offense? Does he have familiarity with the receivers? So he can have a strong arm. He can have the ability to throw a football 1,000,000 yards, but does he have the intangibles? So I think both things can be true. I think he has a good arm, but does he know what he's supposed to do and where to throw it? Maybe that's another story.
Golden Knight _2 with the trend of Gus liking quarterbacks that can't throw. What service academy do we resemble? Jakari being RB2. I mean, QB1. I'll tell you what, I'd like to be like Army. They score every time they're in the red zone. They punch it in.
Well, it can't be Army Navy because they're undefeated. So I say Air Force.
They are not undefeated. I think they're 1-6.
Yeah, they're welcome.
Black Gold _.
Do they want Gus? Is Gus available for Air Force?
When Gus was hired, if the right guy ever got there and built a program, how long does it take to build a program? Or is that not even possible now with a portal and NIL? I think it's possible. I think you're seeing some different experiments go on across the country, right? Clemson and Dabo Sweeney and not wanting to dip into the portal. I think we heard from Ron saying BYU has changed its approach a little bit in the second season in the Big 12. I think it's possible, but it is frustrating. Nick seemed to say he thought maybe UCF would be worse at this point. I think it's hard, though, when you see this season BYU, even Cincinnati, doing better. That's what's tough. When you had the veteran team going in and you had high hopes, that's what's tough. If the expectations were more tempered, maybe it'd be a little bit easier.
I think when you think about building a program, what I think about is building a culture and an identity. I don't know that we've built an identity yet at UCF. I think you can build an identity and a culture and have new players kind of filter in and out, but I don't know that we've built that culture, that identity. I think we've built a culture that's consistent. I don't think we've built a culture, if I'm being honest, Trace, where we develop players, right? Like, so I think if you build that culture, you can funnel people in and out and they'll adapt to that culture. But I don't think we're there yet. To actually have that strong culture and that strong identity. I asked you this on Around the Kingdom a while back. What's UCF's identity? I don't know that we really still have
They're
that
tough
answer yet.
and together.
TAT or TNT.
You know, on that point of development, I asked Gus at some point, I don't remember when, how had he developed KJ Jefferson? And he gave me 20 seconds of nothing. But I'd like to hear how players have been developed at some point. You're not going to get answers on that. I am Rob 6719. Why is it that we can never find our quarterback in fall camp? Well, we knew it was John Rice Plumlee both years, right? They were pretty sure about that. And if a coach is going to fix penalties that were a problem during fall camp, why do we continue to get so many penalties? Lack of discipline, right?
Yeah, we talked. I don't know how you fix penalties, right? Like, other than just saying not to. I don't know how you. And I'm sure there's technique you can teach, and Andy's in the chat. He can probably tell us.
Andy, answer that question for us.
I don't know how you fix penalties. Like, there's probably holding in every play. Some penalties are better than others. I think what you need to fix are the mental mistake penalties, jumping off sides, which UCF did a couple times at Iowa State on the defense. Right? You sometimes see a false starts on offense, jumping off sides on defense. I think if you can, you can get the mental mistakes. I think those are coachable. Things that happen in the heat of the game. Yeah, don't put your hands inside, not outside. Like someone, targeting, aim for the midsection. But I don't know how you do that. But mental mistakes, 1,000%, that's on coaches to say, hey, don't move until that ball behind that man's, like between that man's legs moves. Like, I don't think it's that complicated.
At J1 David, a lot of J's, a lot of D's in this name. What happened?
There was,
trust the process. I think expectations should always be high, but as a fan base, it's way off. I'm not entirely sure I follow on the question, but I think that the fan base isn't trusting the process. And you heard Ron say 60-40 split. We got a question just up ahead about the fan split. Should the expectations be higher for the fan base? I think is sort of an interesting.
I think I said this last week in the show, Trace, and I really want to address this again. I think just because you watch this team play and you have critical comments does not mean you do not want this team to win. Does not mean you don't want this team to be successful. I think everybody who's watching this, the two of us looking at each other for 30 hours a week, frankly, at this point, like we want nothing more.
Well, we got an extra couple hours in person at Intern Pursuit.
We want nothing more than this team to win. But there's also the element of you look at what you see on the field and you say, do you have any trust that this team is going to be able to turn it around? Is this something proven to you where you say, I know that these guys can do it? I think that's the part where, as a fan, it's okay to question that. I don't think you should ever question someone's dedication to the program and their dedication to the team. But to say, hey, I don't know if we're going to win this Saturday, doesn't mean you don't support the team. Doesn't mean you're anti-UCF. It just means that you're seeing something on the field that you don't know if it's very good right now.
You remember the first time we did a remote broadcast at the Celeste together, and I
stared at me for 47 minutes straight. Yes, yeah.
And then we did that in Vegas. A little bit of a different approach during Intern Pursuit this week because we had Andrew Cherico between us. But when Andrew and I did answer a question first, we would just turn and look at you.
I don't know what was happening there. Yeah, well, same. After I was done, I would just look at you two like anything, and then Andrew, like, he's a fast learner because
he asked questions.
He stole our questions. He heard what we asked, and then he just started stealing our questions, which left me without a task. And then my mind wanders, and I'm trying to figure out other random things that don't matter to anybody.
Yeah, like, is your schedule accommodate the Sons of UCF? Are you willing to give 30 hours or more a week? Which is what Andrew
I asked one person for their hottest take, which I thought was interesting.
How about the guy you kind of razzed me a little bit for the guy who's a Bucks fan? I go, well, what the hell happened on Monday night?
That was like the third question. You're like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Trace. This is Adam and Andrew. Like, why are you here? What the hell's wrong with the Bucks? And I was like, geez, like, let the kid sit down.
Hey, we wanted hot takes. We wanted hot takes.
Or hot take factory.
At Scott 88513, a basketball question here. How much is the team going to miss Sellers? One of two returning starters. Hopefully he is healthy soon for him. But until he is back, whenever that might be, that is a tough one, a tough loss for UCF.
Yeah, I don't think you want that guy out for too long because, to your point, building culture, he's somebody who understands the Johnny Dawkins culture and mentality. Again, I think there's a lot of talent UCF brought in, but you want to see this team get a chance to gel together and start to build and form together. And if they're missing a key piece, then they have to bring him back. How does that work? So hopefully he's not out for too long and we get some more clarity there. But that certainly is going to be a loss for UCF.
Do you mind asking a question or sharing the response that you shared with us on Around the Kingdom about teams in March Madness and number of transfer portal players? I thought that was an interesting stat.
That's a great stat. Also, not one that I gave you. That was Elo who gave you that stat. I believe he said, I believe it was definitely Elo. I believe he said that teams that had more than like 9 transfers, only 1 made it to the NCAA tournament, if I remember that correctly. So the essential stat was the more transfers you have, the less likely you are to get to the NCAA tournament.
At UCF Knights win, will navy blue be the dominant color in the crowd Saturday? Some say BYU travels very well. They travel very well. A lot of fans that live in Florida as well. And if we're going to be judgy, a lot of Knights fans selling off their tickets.
You go to that resale market, friends. Not that I've been there, but if you go to that resale market, there are plenty of tickets available.
Are you here Saturday?
So TBD. We got a soccer thing with my daughter.
Depends on what you can get on.
That's too. The son's got football in the morning. The daughter's got soccer in the afternoon. They're both off next weekend, so we've already committed to the space game. So I got to twist some arms here for this one. It's my daughter's a senior. This is her last run at the soccer thing for the club team. I'm getting some pressure as a dad. I mean, listen, dad of the year over here, so I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, makes sense. That'll only be UCF. Would anyone but nerds remember their ABCs without the jingle? Is it the most genius song of all time? It's
this is a great question because as I read this, I was singing it. Yes.
What's in the box question? Yeah,
it does.
Speaking of, what uncomfortable question will I be posed this week? What is in the box? Where he's wandered off. He's
over here. Sorry.
That was not a well-positioned prop.
Yeah, no, it's TEN 1215 is your promo code. I need to reload. The box is empty, Trace. You'll be happy to know. It's the last one in this batch, so I need to
send
get
in
back
your
here.
questions. How would you like to make me uncomfortable next week? By the way, let's talk this real quick. I have a work commitment during the week. So I'm not traveling to visit family in Denver as I normally do during Halloween. Halloween, though, on Thursday. Are we going to risk ringing doorbells? I mean, we have had dogs barking on shows. We had Derek Holman interacting with his family last week on the show. So things happen. We're going to risk. I haven't been home for Halloween in 20 years. So I
think you need to go out and trick or treat.
You don't want to do a show.
I'm not saying I don't. I think I need you out trick or treating. That's the Suns Live content we need. Is you walk and talk, ringing doorbells. That's
joining you live,
asking mailbag questions of your neighbors. That's what I need from you.
Maybe I could take some of the doctored, photoshopped pictures that Andy has put my face on Coach Malzahn and now Coach Harris, and get a mask and go to the door looking like Coach Malzahn.
I may or may not be in a group chat with some other friends of ours, Trace, and that picture showed of you as Gus Malzahn. You look, the two of you, spitting image of MTV's Chris Connolly. Look, Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about. If Gus and Trace had a baby, it would be MTV's Chris Connolly. I'm just throwing it out there right now for you to enjoy. All right, here's the question for the mailbag.
Yeah. Yes.
If you start a sentence with "no offense," are you about to offend somebody?
Yes. Yeah. It's like, I don't mean to be judgmental, but why are you guys selling your tickets to the BYU game? Seems a little judgmental. Yes. Yeah. I don't want to be racist, but I don't want to be.
Whoa. Easy.
No. So, I'm talking about people who say that.
So is that true every time? Like, hey, hate to say it. Does that mean you don't hate to say it?
No. Yeah. I think when you say that, you're intending to say, you try to cover a little bit here. You're trying to lessen it a little bit.
How often do you start off a sentence with no offense?
I don't know, but I'm going to keep track of that now. I don't think much.
What do you do when someone comes to you and says, Trace, no offense? Like, are you guarded? Are you ready to battle?
It doesn't seem to me. I don't know if I am saying it. I'm not sure I'm paying attention to other people saying it, but I'm going to be heightened about it going forward.
What about I got to be honest with you? How do you feel about someone starting off with, I got to be honest with you?
I mean, my approach is more mind and opinion. Can I share something directly with you? Yeah. I don't know.
That's your approach. I'm asking if I came to you and said, Trace, I got to be honest with you. That mailbag segment didn't work. Like how does
you just do it in different ways? You had a typo in your rundown. Screwed up.
We're doing behind the scenes. We're doing behind the snes. I'll do behind the scenes, Trace, because I think I got blamed. I got blamed for something.
8 and 9. I typed.
I got blamed for something.
No, I didn't blame you. I didn't.
It
blame
felt
you.
like you were calling out. Like
no.
It felt like you were saying.
But I like the way you said it to me 2 times. You said to me,
I wasn't sure the first one sent twice. Is that right, Robert? Do I say to your point a lot? Huh. All due respect. That's a good one too.
Game, Robert.
All due respect is a good one too, Matt. Like, guys, can I love it with you? It's a good one too. Fair one.
I did this to you yesterday where I asked you something. You're really good about answering, but I'd asked a couple of things and then you answered a couple of things, but you didn't answer the one thing I asked. So I asked it again. You got like, yeah, I know. I know. I just hadn't answered it yet.
I don't know what that was, but that sounds about right for me.
Yeah.
Robert, hold on.
I asked you if we had any BYU sound from media days.
So I mean,
you could have just told me no, we can't.
I was on the practice field. Aiden was at practice. I saw you would ask me earlier. I'd forgotten. I came. So if we're doing this, I mean, it's already 9:15. What are we gonna do? You and I and Elo recorded Around the Kingdom. We didn't wrap until like 11:30.
Yeah, it was late
on Tuesday night. I had to get up at 5 to get to Orlando for the internship fair. I didn't get a whole ton of sleep. So by the time I got back from the internship fair, there's a black chair that sits right here for me in my office. Your boy took a nap right here for about an hour, woke up, realized I had to take the kid to practice. I answered your first text. Then I went back to the field. I saw your second one. And that's when I was like, I haven't checked yet. I will get back to you. But Robert says he had a question.
What happened to my question? I didn't see it. Why don't you ask it right now, Robert, since we've gone well overtime?
Was that a whale?
I missed the question.
I don't know what he was asking.
Why doesn't he ask that? So back on the internship pursuit, it's a busy 3-hour stretch. I mean, they have these students who signed up 15-minute slots, and we were going from 9 to 12 and met a lot of people. So it was good. I enjoyed it.
This was not meant to be a humble brag. I told you and Andrew this while we were there. Like literally for my job, I interview for a living as well. So I've had days where I've interviewed like 20 people in a row. So this was normal for me. Like that's why I had my notes up here and I was all ready to go. And you and Andrew wanted to like sit down and be like, well, what about this guy? And I was like, no, yes, no, yes. Are we done? Because I was already ready. I was done. I'm in that mode. I was good to go.
Well, he knows a lot of these people, so I think decisions to cut. All right, there's the Robert question. Which quarterback will be more likely on the roster next season, Brown or Colson? Looking forward to it. Okay, yeah. Brown or Colson? Well, I think this is a big audition for Jakari. And if he performs well, I think they'll like him going into next season. I think what Nick said about giving EJ some more opportunities. I hate to burn one game with one play. Couldn't we have sent KJ in?
And I don't even think we had to do that. Like they call a timeout. So I'm not accusing Gus and the staff of not knowing the rules, but I kind of am. I feel like after a timeout, if your helmet comes off, that's nullified. Then you can send the original player who lost his helmet back out on the field. So I feel like that was even a waste to actually even send EJ out there. I think Jakuri would have been eligible to go back out there, but also that officiating crew was not strong. I mean, pass interference on a guy who was out of bounds and a ball that was 17 yards over somebody's head and a really blatant false start on the goal line there that would have ran 10 seconds off the clock. But what am I going to do? So
what's your answer to Robert's question?
I can't answer that yet.
I can't answer that yet either.
Let me answer it after Arizona State, because to your point, if Jakari plays well and then it looks like things are going well, then he's going to probably go into next year as the potential QB1. Then EJ may say, well, then this is not the spot for me. So people keep asking this. I don't know the answer to this either. Is it Jakari or Jakuri?
Yeah, somebody called me out for saying it wrong. I went to the website and they have the sounders. Go to UCFKnights.com and go to the roster page and they have the little ear symbol and they say their names. And I thought I heard him say Jakari. So not curry, like curry, the spice, Jakari. Is what I think it is, Matt.
When you think Curry, you go Curry Spice, not Steph Curry?
Apparently I did. Apparently not a big NBA guy, but that is not the first thing that came
Andy
to mind.
wants to know, would UCF had won the game last year before the 2-minute warning? It's a 2-minute timeout, Andy. Would you please get it together?
I think that, and it was asked of Coach Harris and Coach Malzahn. You remember the Florida game where they're down 11 and they're plodding along, where they needed to speed things up. And Iowa State, they seemed to continue to keep up tempo, and that seemed questionable to me. It seems if though they had tried to slow things down, they would have burned an additional 30 seconds. But I know that doesn't answer his specific question. I think UCF's defense was on the field for too long. And they were going to give up that touchdown. Now, maybe we get the ball back with more time. Maybe there's that.
I do think running the clock would have been helpful. I won't say to your point. Apparently, just said it again. I don't even remember that.
Let's keep a count next week. And Patrick Nurse, I see the speed interning. That's what it felt like. 15 minutes, and then new person came in, and we didn't move for 3 hours. I would have changed that a little bit, I think, and built in a little bit of time for us to just take a moment to catch our breath, and as well for the students. But hey, it's their event. We were glad to be there. So, all right, we've gone way over time, and we already have one of our 17 shows called that overtime.
Confirmed.
I want to thank our guest, Nick Patti. Good to have Nick back, and as well Ron Weaver III from out in Utah. I was a guest on their show. Did 2 shows in Utah today, morning and early evening. So I want to thank those guys for having me on this week. All right, for Adam Eaton, I'm Trace Trelko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
It's Mikey Williams, point guard. Thank you for watching the Sons of UCF.
I'll tell you what, you post anything about that guy, and he's got quite a following. You see the clicks and the follows and the likes.